Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here, and in this video I would like to talk about something that has been on my mind a lot lately. Let me give you a hint, it has to do with campaign length. Now before I get into this, let me just say that I do really appreciate the work that the developers have put into this game. They're a small team working on it, and I think the game has improved quite a bit over the months that I've been playing. It has come quite a long ways. And I have remained very positive and optimistic about it, despite its many flaws, and there are many flaws in the game. But something that has really come to my attention recently is just that the campaigns are a lot longer than they actually have to be. And so I'm going to explain why I think that is the case, and propose an idea for a new campaign system that I think would work better than what we have now. So first of all, why play the campaign at all? Well, there are a number of reasons. First of all, new cards. The campaigns introduce usually 1 or 2 brand new cards each week, and as a collector, I really like, getting those new cards, even if they're not ones that I am going to use immediately. Just having them in my collection is nice. And secondly, the end of campaign rewards can give you a lot of cards focused on the 2 factions that were used in the campaign. So this is opposed to like ranked mode or other daily packs where it's just completely random across all 8 factions. But for the campaign, it's more focused, and so you can get more of the cards that you want from those factions. Thirdly, the immersive story. And by immersive story, I mean the 1 or 2 paragraphs of text that most players probably do not read in the campaign. And fourth of all, honor and glory. Who can forget about that? The bragging rights of getting in the top 1% of the campaign. Oh wait, nobody cares about that. Moving on. So let's talk about the good. There are some good things about the campaign. I think each campaign is fairly unique. There are 8 factions in the game, and there's a surprising number of combinations. So this is made better through the use of keywords, which encourage players to try out different builds. So, like for the most recent campaign, we had Adeptus Mechanicus and Catachans. So normally I might not use a lot of those cards in like ranked mode, but with the campaigns you can try out new decks, new strategies, and some of them work surprisingly well. Alright, but going on to the bad. So one thing is campaign energy has been an issue for a long time. This is what is used to play the games in the campaign, and at the beginning they actually had it so that you started out with all of your campaign energy full, but this gave an unfair advantage to people who just happened to be awake at the start of the campaign, so they changed it so that you just start with 2 energy. But still, there are issues with connections. Like if you get disconnected in your game, then you can lose the energy and thus lose the progress that you would have gained from that game. Now, you can raise a ticket and get a refund on that campaign energy, but sometimes people abuse that, or there are mistakes made and people end up with more energy than they should, and then they're just able to cheat and get more points than others. So, campaign energy is not really the best way to go, in my opinion, and I think there is a better way to do it. So I'll talk about that later. But the other issue, of course, is that the campaigns are just too long, unnecessarily long. And if you're wondering how many O's there are in that word, the number of O's is equal to the number of games in a 5-day campaign. So let's break it down and look at the numbers. So campaign energy currently recharges every 90 minutes, that's every 1.5 hours. That means in every 24-hour period, you can get in 16 games per day. Multiply by that by the standard 5-day campaign, and that is a total of 80 games. That's quite a few games there. Now, the amount of time you spend in each game varies, of course. At the beginning of the campaign, you will only face a couple of cards, and those games will go by very quickly. But once you hit the wall and start facing much more powerful decks, those games can last a lot longer. And even more so when you're facing certain warlords like Magos Dominus and Rakarth, who are able to regenerate, keep their units alive longer. or things like the Turvagon that are good at stalling, those games can take a very long time. But let's just go with a safe bet and say that the average game takes about 7 minutes, and multiply that by 80 games, and you get 560 minutes in a campaign. So how many hours is that? That is over 9 hours a week just on the campaign. 9 hours. That's a lot of time. Now, it might not feel like that much because you only put in a few games here and there, but that is the amount of time that you are spending. Now, this game is not super intensive that it requires 100% of your concentration at all times, and a lot of the time I'll actually be multitasking, like watching a TV show and playing a game at the same time, but still, that is quite a bit of time to be putting into this game. Now, this could be justifiable if the games were actually fun and enjoyable, but let's face it, once you hit the wall and start losing games, the enjoyment factor drops like a rock. At least that's the way it is for me. And once you hit the wall, you will start into a very predictable pattern, and it goes like this. You lose a game, you get knocked back 2 spaces, then you win 2 games to get back to where you were, then you lose another game, you win 2 games, lose 1, win 2, lose 1, win 2, lose 1, win 2, and this repeats over and over and over again for 2 or 3 days, because most people, I think, hit the wall pretty early on, like in the 2nd day, maybe the 3rd day, if you're a higher level player. So, is this really necessary, is my question. Do we need to be playing, just repeatedly ramming ourselves into the wall over and over for 2 or 3 days straight? Okay, well, let me propose a different idea for, a system for how the campaign could work. So, the first main thing that I am proposing is that instead of campaign energy, we have a strike system. So, if you've played Hearthstone, the arena works like this. You build a deck, and then you play games with it, but once you lose 3 games, then you are done. And you can claim the rewards based on how many times you won with that deck. So that's how I think that the campaign should work in combat cards. I think that, this would really work a lot better than energy. You could play at your own pace. So, I mean, if you want to put all your games in and just finish the campaign in the first day, that's an option. Whereas if you want to pace yourselves and just play little games here and there, you could do it that way. Or if you're not able to log in the first day at all, you would still be able to catch up with this system. Now you may be thinking, isn't this kind of unfair for lower level players, because they're going to be finishing a lot faster than higher level players. And yes, it does result in a much shorter campaign, but I think if the campaign length is 5 days, this is an issue, because players that finish early, well, what are they supposed to do for the rest of the time? This is where I think they could get really creative and introduce new game modes. There have been a number of players who have introduced ideas for different game modes, and these could be kind of similar to like the tavern brawls in Hearthstone. There's a different one every week that plays by completely different rules, and there's some of those tavern brawls are even more fun than the actual the regular game itself. A few ideas I had for these brawls would be like, opening up the entire roster of cards so that anyone can use any card. You could have another one that, doubles the deck points available, so you could throw in like a bunch of really big dreadnoughts or something and duke it out with these giants. You could have, things that just limit it to certain types of cards in the deck. There's all kinds of possibilities. And with it rotating each week, you could have, each week feeling new and fresh. And I was thinking that you could have like the campaign at 3 days, which seems like a pretty good length, and then have the brawl for like 2 or 3 days after that, and maybe a 1 or 2 day break each week. So that would keep things feeling new and fresh, I think. Now, going back to the campaign, one other issue is for lower level players, the mission rewards. If you get knocked out of the campaign early on, then it would be impossible to earn the mission rewards, but that is only because the rewards can only be earned in the campaign currently. If you open it up so that they could be earned in any game mode, then this is an easy fix. And the final thing is that the rewards you get at the end of the campaign, I think the way that it is right now, you are basically competing against other players to get into a certain tier so that you can get the better rewards. And from a thematic point perspective, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because you're all supposed to be on the same team fighting a common enemy. This is supposed to be like cooperative, right? But instead, what it is you're fighting against your allies to get the better loot at the end. So what I propose is that instead of basically competing with with other players, the rewards that you get at the end of the campaign are simply based on the number of victory points you earn. This is your own personal score. And so this would make it so that it doesn't matter if like 10,000 players get the exact same score, everyone would still get the same rewards based on their victory points, which I think is just more fair. So, that's my idea for this new campaign system. Do I think that something like this could be implemented? And the answer is probably not, for several reasons. Number one is just too much work. It's just easier to keep things the way they are, and the developers have a lot of other things that they're working on, most notably PvP right now, I think, being able to play against other players in real time. So they have a lot of other priorities. The other thing is just money. I think the longer that the more time that people spend in this game, the more opportunities they have to tempt us with offers to buy these special deals in the shop. So reducing the amount of time that players spend in the game, while it may promote a more healthy lifestyle, I don't think that's really one of their priorities. And then finally, I think a lot of players are just fine with the status quo. They may be content with the way that it is right now, or they may not, but they're just not really willing to make an issue out of it. And, you know, that's whatever. But I'd like to hear your thoughts about this. Do you agree that campaigns are too long? And do you think that there's anything should be done about it? And I'd like to hear what you think about my proposal here for a different type of campaign using a strike system and rewards based on those victory points. If you have any feedback on that, I'd be very happy to hear it. If you made it this far into the video, then good for you. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you next time.